Hi, welcome to Carlson. I'm Joel Waldfogel. I should also say welcome to Managerial Economics. Let's talk a little bit about what this course is about, then we can descend into the details of how to make it work. Broadly speaking, we'll be able to answer the following questions. How should I set prices to increase profits? How can I make money in a competitive market? How do I compete in the presence of a rival? What determines the structure of a market? And when do markets work well and when do they fail? It's quite a lot of stuff, but it's good stuff and relevant stuff. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. Let me talk a little bit about how this course works. As you probably already know, the first half of this course is delivered to you online. So you get a weekly module that includes around 5 videos. It varies week to week. Each little video is followed by an online quiz to see if you've understood the material. There's also a weekly group discussion that'll be online. Now it's not a simultaneous discussion, it's a written discussion, so it can fit in even with crazy schedules and different time zones. There's also a weekly individual problem set that you'll hand in online. And then at the end of the online component of the course, there will be a diagnostic test to make sure that you have understood material up to this time and to make sure that there aren't surprises when we get to the actual final exam. So I urge you strongly to work hard in the online component of the course. Then we start meeting face-to-face. August 24th is the date that we meet. That's our first face-to-face session. It's also an exciting day because that evening we'll have an econ field trip. Yeah, no kidding. We're going to take a field trip to the Mill City Museum, which is a very neat place to learn both about Minneapolis history, but also to see some of the ideas of the course illustrated through the history of Minneapolis. Anyways, once we start meeting face-to-face, the weekly quizzes that are online, those will continue. The group discussions that you will have been doing online will become in-class activities. We'll also have a couple of group problem sets in weeks 4 and 5 of the course, and those will be pretty fun. They're really interesting topics. I'm excited about them. The weekly individual problem sets will continue, and the exam is in class on September 14th. Here's a calendar, lots of information on one slide, but a calendar that gives you some sense of kind of what's ahead. So let me just talk through it quickly. Week 0, the week before we really start the kind of substantive material of the course, there are still a few things going on. One is there's a practice quiz, so we know that you can take an online quiz. There's a practice individual problem set, so we know that you've worked out the bugs in submitting a problem set. In addition, there's an opportunity for you to record a little video to introduce yourself to me and to your classmates. So that's all in week 0. Week 0 assignments are due at the end of the week, but formally sort of the drop-dead deadline is Sunday night, which says here August 2nd. Week 1, that's your first sort of self-directed substantive week when we do individual and market demand. The relevant assignments are due by Sunday, August 9th. Week 2 is costs and supply and demand. And there again, you have quizzes, individual problem set, and online discussion. Those assignments are due on August 16th, which gets us to week 3, when we do some analysis of competitive markets, as well as introducing pricing with market power and monopoly. The assignments for week 3 are due earlier than usual. They're due Friday rather than Sunday, so I can give you the answers in time for you to prepare and study for the online diagnostic test. Don't get too uptight about the test. It's although it is graded, the only way it contributes to your grade in the course is by whether you do it. Of course, you'll want to do well just to show yourself that you're ready to move on in the course and do the final exam. I realize people are moving, lots of crazy stuff's happening then, so to have a high stakes graded activity that contributed directly to the grade would be a bit, I think, challenging. So we do need to have it, just so we know you're ready to move on, but it's not going to directly affect your grade. All right, that gets us to week 4 when we do sophisticated pricing strategy. We actually are meeting twice and having a field trip. But anyways, we do sophisticated pricing strategies as well as some intermediate market structures. There are 3 days with no class. That's one of the group problem sets will occur then. And all those assignments are due on August 30th. gets us to week 5, a week when we only meet once. We'll be beginning oligopoly that week, and you'll have some time to do the other of the 2 group problem sets. Then we get into week 6. Week 5 assignments are due on Sunday, September 6th. Then comes Labor Day. Then we have 3 successive meetings, so no group problem set that week. Instead, we'll just be covering some important topics, finishing up oligopoly, talking about risk and uncertainty, as well as market failure. And the assignments for that week will be due on Friday, so I can again give you the answers in time for you to study and prepare for that exam that comes on Monday, September 14th. And then we're done. So how do we get started? First thing to do is to go to Moodle and read or watch through the About tab and the Week 0 tab of Moodle. Do that practice quiz and the practice individual problem set, which covers the math review, which is helpful for those of you who may be rusty. When you get to step 4 under week 0, you can make a short video to introduce yourself to me and to your classmates using this nifty tool called Flipgrid. You'll probably also want to email your fellow group members to introduce yourselves so that you're ready to begin discussing these weekly online discussions that occur in the first 3 weeks of the class. You'll want to do all this stuff before August 2nd, so this is all week 0 activity. The usual weekly cycle, though, you've probably already picked this up, is to read the text and or watch the videos and take the quizzes after each of the short modules, and then you'll be doing a weekly problem set that's generally due on Sunday, as well as online discussions and the quizzes, as I say. And they're generally due on Sunday, but they're due Fridays before those 2 exams to give you time to study. A little bit about grading. People often ask about this. It's a good question. So the weekly individual problem sets are 10% of the overall grade. I give you full credit if you seem to have made an earnest effort. Okay, so don't be a slacker about this. These are the most like the exam of all the things we do. So I would say work hard on these to do well, but it's not meant to be a high pressure activity. It's meant to be a learning activity. You are allowed one of these to be late. Secondly, there are the quizzes, the online quizzes. Those are 10% of the grade. You have to do them. You have to do them on time. You get full credit even if you get it wrong. Why do I do that? Because again, I want that to be a learning and as opposed to an assessment kind of an exercise. Then we have those discussions I mentioned. They're online for the first 3 weeks, and they're in class in the form of activities once you're here. Those are collectively 10% of the grade as well. The diagnostic exam, you have to do it. If you don't do it, you lose a big 10% of the overall grade, but you get the full credit for doing it. Please do prepare for it, or prepare by doing the first 3 weeks of material. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble in the second half of the course, and that serves nobody's interests. There are 2 group problem sets that I mentioned during those first 2 weeks that you're here. Those are going to be interesting and fun. I'm really looking forward to them. Those make up 10% of the grade, and they are graded, on a continuous scale. Finally, that exam that occurs on September 14th is half the grade for the course. So that's a big old-fashioned scary exam in the sense that the grades are continuous from 0 to 100, and so you'll want to do well on that one. So you've kind of heard this before, but let me say it again. Repetition is often quite useful. Here's just a list of topics associated with weeks. So week 0 is that getting started week, making sure technology works. Week 1 is individual and market demand. Week 2, we do costs and supply, as well as supply and demand analysis. So we put it all together and we can do supply and demand. In week 3, we use supply and demand to do things like analyze the incidence of taxes, as well as quotas, as well as some other interesting current events like the sharing economy. And we also introduce the topic of monopoly and pricing with market power. In week 4, we go much deeper into pricing with market power. We think about sophisticated pricing tools like bundling and 2-part tariffs and price discrimination. We also begin intermediate market structures, that is intermediate between competition and monopoly, so things like monopolistic competition and oligopoly. In week 5, we go explicitly into game theoretic models of oligopoly. So we'll spend some time on game theoretic models of duopoly with homogeneous products and differentiated products. I realize that's a mouthful of gibberish at this point, but it'll become meaningful and, moreover, interesting by the time we get there. In week 6, we cover 2 broad things. One is risk and insurance, The other is market failure. So we'll talk about externalities, about public goods, and about asymmetric information. These, by the way, are topics that are not just for public policy purposes, but also many of them have relevance to business. So that'll be an interesting week for us too. And that leads us up to week 7, which is the exam in class on September 14th. Now, if you've had econ before, you may think, oh, wow, this sounds kind of familiar. And my guess is, based on lots of experience, that if you've had lots of econ before, you may find the first 2 weeks familiar. If you're in that position, you're welcome to jump to the quizzes and the problem sets and see if you've got mastery of that. Again, I wouldn't expect material beyond the first 2 weeks to be very familiar. Finally, though, before we part, I just want to say again, welcome to Carlson and welcome to Managerial Economics. Look forward to getting to know each and every one of you.